Hello and welcome back to Bookmark Chronicles. Today we're going to talk about my favorite books that I read in 2022. I'm going to go through this by genre, and then my top 2 reads of the year will be at the very end, but otherwise they're in no particular order. We're starting off with nonfiction, of which I have 2. The first one is Freedom is a Constant Struggle by Angela Y. Davis. This is the book that Rachel recommended to me for my 12 Recs by 12 Friends. I know Rachel is a huge fan of Angela Davis, and this is only my second read by her, but it was another 5-star read. This one is a collection of speeches where she talks about different movements and the foundations of those movements and how they're all connected. Highly recommend if you are into nonfiction and if you are looking to get into Angela Davis. My second nonfiction is Feminism by Mickey Kendall. I wanted to read this because I read Women, Race, and Class by Angela Davis last year. This was gifted to me by Dasha, and I really enjoyed this. The tagline is Notes from the Women That a Movement Forgot. So it talks about feminism and why it needs to be intersectional and how leaving out certain communities is actually doing more harm than good. We shouldn't have to explain that, but apparently we still do. But again, highly recommend. The next category is a mix of genres because I have one from each genre. So I have a mystery thriller, a sci-fi, and a contemporary. Starting with mystery thriller, it's Grown by Tiffany D. Jackson. I've been wanting to read this for a really long time and kept putting it off because I knew that it was going to be sort of a heavy read, but I finally read it this year during Black Weenathon and I did really enjoy it. And those are following a young girl named Enchanted. She is an aspiring singer-songwriter. She gets discovered by a producer who has a very bad reputation when it comes to dealing with young women. So there are a ton of content warnings for physical, verbal, sexual abuse, grooming, kidnapping. There's a ton, but I do think that the story was very well written, and even though I wanted to fight the producer almost every page, I think that was part of the reaction that you're supposed to have. So definitely recommend, but again, beware of the content warnings in this one. The sci-fi on this list is Survive the Dome by Kisoko Jackson. This is the book that I read to give this author a second chance after I DNF'd a romance by him, and this one was a 5-star read. I absolutely loved it. We're following a young man who is on his way to a protest after an unarmed black man has been killed by a police officer. It takes place in Baltimore, and mid-protest, a dome covers Baltimore. So for everyone inside, all of their technology is down. They can't communicate with anyone outside of the dome, and no one outside the city of Baltimore knows that this is happening. So warnings for racism and police brutality, but I think that Kisoko Jackson did a really good job with it. And then my contemporary is Long Way Down by Jason Reynolds. This is my first time reading anything by him, even though he is a highly recommended author. I really enjoyed this one. I think I just really enjoy books that cover heavy topics, but in a really good way. In this, we're following a young man whose brother has been murdered. He wants to get justice and avenge his brother's death. So he grabs his brother's gun, and as he's going down to the lobby of his building, sorry, the sirens are so fucking loud. So as he's going down to the lobby, the elevator stops on every floor, and on every floor he is visited by someone who has died from gun violence. I love this book, highly recommend. I think I will want to reread it one day. Again, it is a heavy topic, but I think that Jason Reynolds did a really good job with it. Next, we're moving on to romance, and my first one is If She Says Yes by Tasha L. Harrison. This is an age gap romance between a man and his best friend's mom. I don't hate age gap, but it has to be between 2 adults. The best friend's mom part, I kind of had to, suspend my disbelief or whatever, but at the same time, I kind of hated the son, so I really didn't care. Overall though, I actually really enjoyed this. This is an older woman, younger man. Tommy is in his 20s, and I can't remember the female main character's name, but she's in her 40s. And I actually really enjoyed it a lot. The other romance on this list is The Kiss Quotient by Helen Long. This is the first book in a series. I'm currently reading the second book, The Bride Test, right now. Off to a rocky start, but I have hope that I'm going to like it. In this one, we're following Stella and Michael. Stella is neurodivergent, and her parents are harassing her about having children because they want grandchildren, which is something that I fucking hate. But Stella decides that if she is going to have kids, then that means she needs to have sex, and she thinks she's bad at sex. So she hires Michael, who is an escort, to teach her to be better, and the two of them fall in love. I really enjoyed it. I love the chemistry between the 2 characters, and I'm hoping that I will enjoy the rest of the series. Our final category is going to be fantasy, starting with A Dark Queen Rises. This is the second book in the Burnt Empire saga. I have a full series review of that, so I'll have it linked in the cards and in the description. This is the follow-up to Upon a Burning Throne, which is one of my favorites of 2021. I absolutely loved every minute of that book because it's so chaotic and amazing, and I loved it. This one I liked a little less, however. I think I just really enjoyed being back in this world and getting a dual timeline from the first book. In both this and the first book, we are following members of this royal family. There's a ton of drama because the king has died and there are two heirs. They have to figure out which one of them is going to rule, and in order to do that, they have to withstand a test of fire where they are sat upon a literal burning throne. If they survive, it means that they are able to rule. However, both of the heirs survive, and then a third heir comes forward, and things kind of fall apart from there. First book was still my favorite, but I did also enjoy this one as well. Next is Thunderhead by Neil Shusterman. This is the second book in the Arc of the Scythe trilogy. I also gave Scythe 5 stars at the end of last year. I really like this one because it was chaotic and messy and I didn't see the ending coming. I know someone who doesn't like it for all of those reasons, but I really like this one. I thought this one was great. This was probably my favorite in the series. In the first book, we're following two teenagers who are chosen to be apprentices for a scythe, and scythes are people who, in this world where disease and sickness no longer exist, they have to glean or kill people as a means of population control. So highly recommend if that sounds interesting to you. The chaos in this was just, I don't know, it just really did it for me. Now we are down to my top 2 reads of the year. The first one is Kingdom of Souls by Rena Barron. I read this as a part of a book club that I'm no longer a part of, but I really enjoyed it and I was so surprised at how much I enjoyed it. But I liked it so much that I bought book 2 before I even finished this one. In this, we're following Ara. She is the daughter of 2 very powerful witch doctors, but she doesn't have any magic of her own. There are ways that she can get magic, but in order to do that, she'd have to give up years of her life, and she becomes so desperate that she's willing to do that. There are a lot of twists and turns in this one. It is fast moving, and there's always something happening, kind of to the point where it's like almost overwhelming, but not in a bad way. I was never bored when I read this, so I'm really looking forward to continuing this series, and I'm hoping that I enjoy book 2 because book 3 is supposed to be coming out sometime this year. My favorite read of 2022 is also the first in a fantasy series, and it is Black Sun by Rebecca Roanhorse. This is the first book in the Of Earth and Sky series, I think it's called. I love this. Oh, I loved it so much, and I was so surprised by it. Even though I had heard so many great things about it, I personally wasn't actually interested from the synopsis though, so I didn't think that I was going to read it. But this is the book that Dasha recommended to me for my 12 Recs by 12 Friends, and I'm really glad that she did. I did also read the second book. I didn't love that one as much, but I am still holding out hope that the third book is going to be good, and hopefully we get a release date for that sometime soon. I'm terrible at explaining what this book is about, so I will just read the synopsis. In the holy city of Tova, 3 lives are converging during a solar eclipse, prescribed by the sun priest as an unbalancing of the world. Meanwhile, a ship launches from a distant city bound for Tova and set to arrive on the solstice. The captain of the ship, Shiala, is a disgraced Tik whose song can calm the waters around her as easily as it can warp a man's mind. Her ship carries 1 passenger. Described as harmless, the passenger Serapio is a young man, blind, scarred, and cloaked in destiny. As Shiala well knows, when a man is described as harmless, he usually ends up being a villain. If you're a fantasy reader, highly recommend, because this was really, really good. So those are all of my favorite books of 2022. Let me know if you have read any of these or if they are on your TBR. Otherwise, that's all I have for you today, and I'll see you in the next video.